What's or maybe the biggest lesson that you learned that helped make you more successful today?
Probably the same answer for both of us, and it is financially insane to do this.
Hey, this is Sean from the Heavy Underground Farm Report. I've got Ryan and John from Ripplefest, Texas, and Planet Desert Rock, two of my absolute favorite trips I've ever taken in my life. So I really appreciate you guys being here. John called me yesterday and was like, hey, man, we need to do a show and let people know what's up with heavy rock festivals in the United States, because I think there's some misconceptions about cancellations or bookings and stuff. And so I wanted to bring the experts in to clear that kind of stuff up. So, John, what you want to start, or Ryan, and go ahead, Ryan.
First of all, I love the you just referred to us as experts. Thank you. Makes me
You
feel
guys are
very good.
experts.
But
We
we do
long
it.
ways, Ryan.
Yeah, we do it. Now I'm the expert at this. That's rad.
Hey,
That's pretty cool.
it's
Yeah.
a low
Yeah.
bar for us, really, at this point in time.
Very low bar in this industry.
In America.
You guys put on two amazing festivals. You get bands from all over the world to come to these, all over the United States, and then you have the ability to get people's asses on planes to fly out to these events. Las Vegas in the winter, not maybe everyone's ideal time to visit Las Vegas, and then Ripplefest in September, which if you want to lose some weight, it's a perfect time to show up. But you guys do it. So you are the experts. Tell me, why did you guys decide to do those shows? I mean,
I'll let John start. You've been doing it longer than I have, man.
I've made it very clear that I was going through I would say midlife crisis, which I'm probably still in. I'm past midlife at this point in time, I'm pretty sure. But I was heavily influenced I would say not influenced, I was motivated and inspired by Psycho Vegas right here in my backyard. And Ryan was as well. We're finding his conversations. We were both goers. We didn't know each other back then, but we both were people that saw this and was like, wow, that's pretty cool. But I didn't have the goal to be as big as that. So I wanted to do something smaller, maybe tighter on what kind of bands I was curating, not as big as them. And hey, don't get me wrong, Psycho started out predominantly stoner doom and some psych, and then they had some, obviously some legacy bands and so on. So, but mine, I just wanted to make it smaller, make it opposite season or something, and just do something kind of cool. So, I mean, I spun off of it really into it because I booked John Garcia, and I booked him at Vinyl and had a thing called A Night with John Garcia, where we brought in different guys that he played with in almost every band he was in. Amazing. And just did a theme night of that. And then I'm like, got people in town. Why don't they do another night? So next thing you know, I got 3 nights. So it was a blast.
Ryan, how did that blow up for you?
Yeah, ironically, John's right. But Psycho Las Vegas was a huge inspiration. But I've gone to many festivals. This is even before being a musician in a band myself. And I've always huge passion going to festivals. And I guess I used to always make mental notes like, if I ever did one of these, this is what I would do. Never thinking I was actually going to do that. And then my band got going right about when COVID happened, and the world like shut down. And I was trying to book my band, and then I had this idea to book a festival. And we had just gotten signed to Ripple at the time, and I reached out to Todd going, hey, why is there not a Ripple? How do we do Ripplefest, Texas? And he's like, well, he was like, don't look at me. Bands have done all the Ripplefests. So I just kind of jumped on it, not having a clue what I was doing, but knowing that I could do something cool with some of the ideas I had of what makes a good festival. And there's been a lot of trial by error, but kind of like John said, it's grown. I had a 1-day fest, and now I'm a 4-day fest, and now I've got a solid family, as I like to call them, that is, I know I can earmark they'll be there every year.
Man, it's those I can't imagine wow, I'm not gonna be able to go to Ripplefest this year. I'm pretty sad about it. And then John, we'll be back though. We're getting married this year, so we got some shit going on. But yeah, you guys, what was the steepest part of that learning curve for each of you? Maybe the biggest lesson that you learned early on that helped make you more successful today?
It's probably the same answer for both of us, and it is financially insane to do this. I think I always just thought, oh, I do a festival, the bands will come and they'll play, and it's not very hard. And then as my festival grew, more costs, not even with bands, but which I know we're gonna have to get to that later because that's been staggering. But the amount of production costs that goes into it as well. When it's not just like venues don't just go cool play here. You have to pay for the usage and pay for if you want it to look cool, the production value of lights and sound, and you pay for all that, and that's it. It's not cheap, and so I think the biggest learning curve I had is I can't just throw a cool festival and make money. I have to actually make sure I don't continue to lose money. John and I have had this conversation too about how I'm amazed in the scene. There's such a family atmosphere in this scene. I knew that as soon as Hydrogen Queen started playing in the scene, I knew there was something special in the people, and so I wanted to do something for them. And I look at it now that I've basically thrown a couple weddings for the daughters I don't have, and have lost money. And now it's like I've gotten smarter to try to see how I can make this work.
Yeah, that's a great answer. John, what about you? Was it similar?
Two things. One is just the basics, cost versus revenue. And it's all gamble. So we can set a pseudo kind of budget for things, but it's got to be offset with revenue potential to make it at least even. So I think my eyes, particularly when I did Planet Desert Rock 2, which I lost more money than I've ever even gotten close to regaining in my investment in the scene, we'll say. So I'm not, I'm a philanthropist right now.
Thanks for not running away.
But I don't want to.
I appreciate you sticking it out and not giving up after that, because I imagine a lot of people would have.
I did kind of, sort of, but it was
break.
2019, and I lost 5 digits of money, and that I wasn't necessarily someone who could afford that at that juncture without leveraging other things. My big lesson on that was my eyes were bigger than my checkbook. I had bigger visions that people would be so into it that having this lineup would pay off, and doing all these things for the bands extra was just part of the deal. And so, yeah, we both had to learn the hard way. Cost is just, I think that should be
John,
a lot of the conversation today.
and
then we could talk about revenue, meaning attendance. Is there enough people to even warrant the kind of things that Ryan and I do, along with Desert Fest New York, which took a pass this year, and Maryland Doomfest, who's been doing it for like 11, 12 years, with mixed success at best and kind of a regional. And so there is no other real festival that's like more than one day. That's every year in America when it comes to our, broad scene of heavy rock.
Do you guys think, John, you talk about your eyes were too big, maybe, do you think that maybe the fans' eyes are a little too big sometimes too? Like maybe we're being a little unrealistic?
Someone like the order.
I think there's people that would like to see Fu Manchu and the Melvins and frickin' Hippie Death Cult and then we'll fly in,
them
Dozer
witches
again, and we're just going to do that for Planet Desert Rock, and why can't they just do that? And I think some people don't understand.
Well, first off, Sean, it's not McDonald's. And I try to explain that to people. You're not going through a drive-through and ordering up a band. It's just, I understand why people do it. I get it. In so many different psychological levels and enthusiasm levels, people, they got this great idea, then it'll be their idea. It's weird stuff. But, I saw a post yesterday that was kind of slamming Desert Fest a little bit. And I understood the frustration, Northeasterners were having.
Yes.
But then I saw people listing long list of bands. And I'm like, oh, if they only knew. If only Ryan and I could talk about
we're having this conversation.
And
y'all.
That's where I came up, and I'm like, Ryan, how about this idea? Let's inform some people a little bit on why maybe we're not giving you, we can't, I mean, no one's really complaining necessarily, but once in a while people have eyes bigger than the wallets that are out there. So, they're like, yeah, get these bands and you're set. Like automatically the crowd's going to come and it's going to pay for itself. Because as Ryan mentioned, the production cost, his is much more than mine, but the production cost is a huge part of it if you want it to be cool. So, yeah.
Because we're not just making, we're not just bringing good music. We're trying to create a cool experience, right? And I think that's why production costs become such a big factor as far as we're trying to create an atmosphere and an event and something that people want to go to. Because there's several festivals. Many in the U.S. have gone away, as already discussed. And then you have all the super big mega fests that, have unlimited budgets and aren't people like John and I trying to do them. And it's a difficult world because I mean, being in this spot, like John says it all the time. I constantly get hit up like, you should get this band or this band, and I wanted to say, if you only knew what that band actually costs. And sometimes and maybe one of those would work. But now you start getting 3 and 4 of them, you're like, oh my gosh, I can't. My budget's gone. And so it's we both have kind of, we're getting better at this. I really love what John's doing. He's got a great niche going with the level of band that he's got from all over the world. I think that's super smart and super well created. But that's over time, like you said, he lost his ass, a few times. And I've also lost my ass, and where I was like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. And I've kind of had to find what works for each of us, right? And so,
what was that big year, Ryan, that you did, the massive year where you took the biggest loss? You had some big ass bands.
Ironically, it was year 2, just like
what
you.
Were the bands?
Eagles of Death Metal year, perhaps.
Yeah, Eagles of Death Metal, The Sword, everything else. Like I had, a massive lineup, but I mean, I had bands all the way down that were, I had in the middle level that were big bands.
Yeah.
I went all in. I had my brother and I. My brother who helps me with these as well, had sold a house and we had a little bit of money in the bank and we were like, cool. We've got some coverage just in case. We didn't know we were going to have to use all of it, but it is what it is. And I honestly was like, I didn't know what I was doing yet. I'm learning. I wanted to put on a big party for everybody. I wanted to have the bands, every single band, just like John, I hand select. Sure, people give me suggestions all the time, but I hand select. There's never been a band at Ripplefest that I've not wanted there. It wasn't just because, well, maybe this will sell tickets. No, it's who I want to have there. And there's a fine line in that, because I could go for certain bands that might put more butts in the seats, but I want my festival to be a certain thing every year. And I think people have grown to appreciate that. At least I hope so.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I have a comment online right now. I got a guy, Mickey, who watches my show all the time. And Mickey, he says, man, I'll take the underground bands over the mainstream bands all the time. And I think, John, that's one of the things I like about your fest, and I like about yours too, is that I'm not really interested in going to see the biggest band on the scene necessarily, man. I want to see a bunch of like mid-level bands that I haven't seen before, and maybe throw in some bands I haven't even heard of before. And I think you guys do a great job of that.
I think that's
the key.
The point of focus.
Good music out. And Ryan and I both believe in giving good bands or bands that are just not at the highest level of knowledge, but's been around for 10 years or whatever, but they're just so good. And when people finally hear them live, or they finally just sample them because we got them coming to the festival, and then they're like, holy shit, this is such a good band. Yeah, I mean, and that's, I think, part of this bigger organism that Ryan and I live in and work in and everything else. We're kindred spirits on so much of this stuff. I'll never forget when Ryan first started. I was, at that point, a voice of reason that probably came off the negative. And Ryan be like, oh, yeah, I get it. Thank you.
Probably.
Exactly. And I get that.
I remember doing it. I'm like, oh man, I love the enthusiasm. I was probably being fucking, condescending or something, but I didn't mean it. And Ryan's still friends with me, so we're all right. But
exactly.
But he was like, I was like, oh no, I guess he's got to do it also. Somebody was like, and he went way bigger than anything. My biggest band, was Red Fang at the time, and it was working with an agent, which I think we're really gonna need to. That's the next line on why the booking agents, meaning these bands get agents, the bigger agencies, where if you look on the roster, you see
Yeah.
bands much bigger than that band, like
Is
much
that
bigger.
is that the dividing line between maybe affordable bands and bands that you're like, we're gonna have to, I mean, because like
Pretty
it's easy for me
somewhat,
to
right?
like,
Right? Somewhat.
Yeah, I think yes and no. I mean, there's bands that have agents that are still getting going, or maybe I have a like John and I are lucky enough to have relationships with some of these bands too. They'd be like, "Hey, man, you got to give me a homie discount or something." I'm gonna
sure,
there's no other, which we don't always get, by the way. But I'm saying even when I ask, but it's like, hey, we're giving you a really cool stage, a really cool audience, a really cool thing to be a part of that's going to be promoted. And I kind of, when I started, I kind of thought that was enough. Like, hey, I'm going to give you this really rad thing. Like come be a part. And I learned quickly that's not enough because especially when bands start working with agents and the larger bands, and uh, agent's got to get paid. He's going to demand a
sure,
certain amount of money. What sometimes, and we've learned that for whatever reason, I'm in a band and I still don't understand this. There's a club gig price and there's a festival price. And I have never fully understood that
is
as a
there like
musician
a
myself.
difference in the kind of
Well, the only,
what's the difference?
What? Oh, there's a
Let's-
massive difference financially.
Well,
for
I know, but what's the difference for you as a band, Ryan?
So we're not going to name any bands, right? But let's say
Sure.
let's say a band at a club could make a $500 guarantee, that's a solid band. They're probably going to demand somewhere in the upwards to 2-3K to play my festival. And the only answer I can get, and the only thing I've learned about as to why, is that when we have all these bands, you're competing to sell merchandise, which is what bands survive on. Okay.
Yeah.
But I've also learned this as a band myself. If you deliver and you play a festival, I sell more merch at festivals than I do at a gig. And so, because there's more people there. So I haven't really grabbed this explanation that agents give me. Like, oh, nope. Because, for example, I don't charge, a percentage of what band. Like I played a festival where it's top for me to play that festival. I have to give 15% of what I make to the festival or to the venue. I don't charge that. So I try to explain this in one out the other. This is our festival price. This is what it's going to cost to get this band, and it's been that's one of the things that's been really. And it's really the agents. It's bands I can talk to, and they'll be like, "Cool," and then I get yelled at from the agent because I went directly to the band. So it's one of those things that
Yeah,
it's a struggle.
I think the thing is they use it as like a flag on building a tour, and they like to get a running start with that flag by charging 5 times more or whatever. Because like, I guess I won't name too many bands in this, but
Yeah.
there's bands that like it would cost $1,500 to $2,000. They're a bigger band in the
Yeah.
scene. Normally on a show, guarantee, and they want like $10,000. And that has to be financially, you have to go, okay, because of this one band, how many 3-day or 4-day passes or 1-day passes am I going to get just because of that band? And so that's where I think both he and I have gotten hesitant is we don't trust it anymore.
Yeah.
Like with him,
Yeah.
me with Red Fang and him with the death
metal.
metal. Yeah.
Eagles of
Yeah,
Death Metal.
The
Yeah.
Eagles of Death Metal. It was just in no way did it translate. Don't get me wrong. His ticket, my ticket for that daily is much more than their normal ticket. So there's that aspect that we have to fool around with as well. I mean, my shows are $50 a day at least.
Which is also a big deal. I feel like the ticket price is a huge deal. Like John and I were adamant about, like I'm super adamant about keeping my ticket price to an affordable level. Like I've played other festivals where the ticket price was, $300-$400, and I'm like, I'm not doing that. And so I keep the affordable price low. So that's to John's point. If I have a band that's telling me they're 10K, that's X amount of tickets, and that's just by that band before I can add any other bands to my budget. We have to sell more tickets for, and then
you have to factor in: are you going to lose people when your ticket price goes up?
Right, and so I don't want to, which I don't want to do. And then you also the big thing I'm learning too is the single day price. You have to keep that down because I really like pulling bands from, even though it's all the same umbrella of music, there's bands that maybe are more thrash or more
Oh yeah,
stoner, right? And I love that
especially at Ripplefest.
because I think that's important to, I like a curated lineup where it's not the same thing. And so cool, I might get a band that is worth 100 tickets, but they're worth 100 tickets when the people are going to pay $15 to $20 to see them. They're not worth, if they want to see that one band, they're not going to pay $50 to see that band because they don't care about the other bands, even though they're going to learn some bands that are good.
So let me give you,
And
that's a great example. So here's an example from my own personal life. I really want to see Acid Bath. They're coming to Denver. They're playing part of a metal festival. There are no other bands playing that I want to see. I'm not a metal guy, but I want to see Acid Bath. So I'm not paying $250 to go see Acid Bath. And I think if people think about that, your example, Ryan, or my example, it starts to make more sense why some of these bands that you want to show up in mass at festivals is kind of like a fantasy, that you're not really doing the math that John and Ryan actually have to do.
Yeah, it's like, go ahead, Ryan.
And when we're off air, I'll tell you what Acid Bath wants. It's insane.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if these agents, and when I say agents, I again want to make sure we're not talking about guys like Ian Watts, cool cats like that. Okay.
Yeah.
We're talking about agents where you look at the roster and you're like, a lot of bigger stuff is on there. So there's certain formats or examples. And I think that these agents and agencies are stuck in this thing where they think they can charge Ryan and I and Reese and JB the price that they would get in a European festival. And I mean American bands. It's like, dude, do you not know the American market?
So, Ryan, you just got back from Europe. Could you talk about the differences between American festival crowds and European festival crowds? Give people like a kind of a real view of this.
I'll tell you about the festival crowds, and then, of course, talking about budgets and why bands ask for so much. It's because of the European model. First of all, the crowds are insane. The crowds are great. There's a reason why a lot of bands like mine and other bands from the States go to Europe a lot and tour. Because the fans are there. They're there. I do feel like post-COVID, we're kind of in the world of, man, do I want to go to that festival and, be around a lot of people and spend, $50 to see these bands, or do I want to just catch the clips of it later on Instagram or TikTok? There's a lot of that I think, and there's that struggle. But another thing too, because when John was talking about how when bands are booking tours, this is totally true. All what bands try to do is bookend it with festivals or build around festivals because, they usually are generally higher guarantees, which I'm still not sure why, but they generally are. But I know why in Europe. So in Europe, I can't say Europe, but specifically Germany, those festivals are grants by the government that are given.
Wait, what?
Yeah, these are grants that are given by the government. They have
that's where I want my tax dollars going right there, man.
Oh, it's actually kind of rad, right? It's a huge artist. It's a huge artist thing that they do there.
It probably is happening in our country, just not with rock and roll, Ryan.
No, you're exactly. It does happen.
Really think that through.
It does happen here, but not with this genre. But see, in Germany, for example, metal and rock and roll is still king.
Cool.
And so they have to apply. They apply for the grant and they apply for the festivals, and they have to show that they've turned in this much money or they don't get the money next year. Blah blah blah. So or this many tickets, right? So like festivals, some of these larger festivals that my band's been lucky enough to play and are going to play. A lot of those, I'm getting guarantees that are higher than I would normally probably get because I'm not afraid to ask for it because it's not coming from the promoter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's not coming from raising the ticket price.
And it's not their ass if High Desert Queen doesn't put tickets in put butts in the seats. It's not their ass. So
that's really interesting.
They still got to work to a budget though.
They have to, like, correct. So there's still,
it's not,
there's still quotas they have to meet or whatever you want to, baselines they have to meet, right? Whatever. But it's just a different model. And I'm not, it used to be that way here from what I'm understanding, mainly because record labels are putting money into festivals and a lot more sponsors were like, oh man, rock and roll, that's where we want our money. Like in the 80s and 90s, that was like, I could I could easily I could easily be throwing a festival probably here in the 90s, this same festival, Ripplefest, Texas, and I could get a number of sponsors that would probably end up paying for my whole budget. And then I can rely on ticket sales to put in my pocket. But it's not the world we live in anymore. Rock and roll is not king. I can't
It's not
call.
even in the court.
Record labels don't work the same way they used to either. You know, like when I signed a record contract with Ripple and now with Magnetic Eye Records, I'm not like, sweet, I don't have to work a job anymore. My life is taken care of. You know, like we used to think it was back in the day. So they're not able to put the money into the festivals, and sponsors have a very limited amount of what they can put into festivals, and I think that also plays a huge role. Like these mega fests, these super uber mega fests that are run by like Live Nation, that already is
It's ran by Danny Wimmer. He's actually the king of American festivals. He's the one that kind of really brought big festivals back. But his branding, what he does, very much is in line with the heavy rock that comes out of the Octane, world. Octane is the radio station on Sirius XM, and then aligns with the heavy rock that comes from the bigger labels as well. So he's part of that thing. So he rarely has any bands of our world. Queen Stone Age, I think, is popped in there. Clutch, like Rockville last year. Welcome to Rockville over in Daytona. I think they had All the Witches, Clutch, Queens. Feels like maybe one other. But they were like in no way even close to the top of the bill. Like not even, because everything's about following the money, and our country is, the money is all gone to hip hop and rap, and no one wants it. It's like, oh no, what are you saying? And I'm just saying, I already did this. You got to follow the money, Unless we're saying that, well, rock and roll has just really sucked. It's just been really, really just not done anything new for 15, 20 years. I'm like, okay, what the fuck has rap done different in 20 years? Besides me understand it, the lyrics even less, because we got a big old mumble rap. I mean, what the fuck? You know what I mean? So it's, you just have to go with the money. And then with Europe, it's a different demographic period. It's a different culture. Their demographics are far different than us. Though they have melting pot aspects, we are.
It's also a lot smaller, and it's more like it's just more concentrated in the amount of people that listen to it.
Yeah, and I talked to, just as far as touring goes, I talked to Hippie Death Cold a couple of weeks ago, and they were like, it's not like touring the United States. There's not 10-hour drives anywhere. And, I live in Denver, and I thought about that, and I was like, yeah, the closest real cities are probably Kansas City and Salt Lake City and Albuquerque, and they are nowhere close to me.
No.
I mean, Ryan, you're from Texas. Like 7-Eleven isn't close to you. Nothing's close in Texas.
Well, we laughed when we tour in the U.S. Just getting out of Texas is the hardest part. You
do 5 shows in Texas.
Yeah, Germany is smaller than Texas, so it's just interesting that also the whole system of touring over there is different. When I tour over there, usually accommodations are included, and food, and they usually cater for us and stuff. You get treated like a rock star. It's just a different way of going about it. Like it's all built in. Like a lot of the clubs have apartments above. It's built in to when they were building a venue. This is what their thought process was. We're going to also take care of the bands as well. It's just here,
a massive cultural difference.
Yeah, here it's you got to drive a long way, so it's expensive to get there. You play a show, you get your 2 drink tickets, and then when you're done, you're like, get the hell out the door. We gotta clean the place up. It's just a different. Not everywhere. We play some amazing places in the States that take such good care of us.
Yeah, but unfortunately,
they're few and far between. Yeah, that is the generality of what. Like when I explain to European bands who want to come to the States, I'm like, why? And I give them that description of what it's like playing here.
So you guys have had European bands at both your festivals, obviously, and they've gone through this American experience. Can you share some of their reactions to exactly what you're talking about there, Ryan, John?
Exactly. Even though the description I just gave of what it's like to play here, I've had some negative reviews of touring in the States. For the most part, they really enjoyed it. I think, of course, I was on the road with Dozer while they were doing it. We toured together. And so obviously I got to see that firsthand, and that was so cool. But that's a band that hadn't been in the States in 20 years, had quite a bit of clout, and they were filling up rooms everywhere we went. So it was really cool, right? There are other bands, they'll tell you, yeah, we lost our ass, but we got to come to America. We got to eat it. We got to eat at McDonald's, and we went to Bucky's, and we went to like,
is that still a draw
Yeah.
for European bands to
for
experience the
some
United
bands.
States?
Yeah.
For some bands, yes.
For a lot, so with my feedback, at least, from talking to my Euro bands, and I had not 20, but after this will be 20. The one thing I get back from them the most is how much they love the people.
True.
Like our perception versus reality of what us Americans are like, it's just like insane.
Yeah.
And
I got a story. Yeah.
I mean, it's like just they end up like, because everything is focused on the positive and the fun and everything else. And you can have all walks of politics, but if that's not what's being brought up, you're talking about the commonality of each other. Yeah, I mean, these folks have just such a good time. And some of them speak great English, like great English.
Yeah.
Others, it's a little tougher for like our Italian bands, even Spanish bands. They're not quite like the German bands or the Finnish or Swedish. I mean, they like literally learn English from the get-go. I mean, it's amazing. I wish I could speak 3 languages.
Ryan,
I really do.
I don't know how to do it.
Ryan, you got a story, bud.
Well, yeah. So to John's point, he's right. I think one of the biggest things I hear from bands is how enthusiastic the crowd is in America, even if they don't fill the room as much. Maybe like in Europe, they like the people are crazy. Good conversation. I was in. We were playing a festival in Cologne, and I was hanging out with Greenleaf and Slow Mosa. We were hanging out, and Slow Mosa had just finished a really long tour. They were, of course, they've been killing it, and then they were touring with Helmet, who was filling up places everywhere. And so obviously, I knew they were going to have a good feedback on how the U.S. was because they played in front of packed crowds every day. But they were also telling me they love how enthusiastic Americans are, and I've definitely seen this because I've played in Europe, and we have people who they're so honest. They'll be like, "Great show. You were a little flat when you sang that second song." Like, yeah.
Are you serious?
But they describe how like in America, everyone's like, "Fuck Andy, what an amazing show!
Yeah.
You guys are so sick!" Like people like freaking out on them all the time, and that obviously feels good. But yeah, I don't say that happens all the time in Europe, but I'm saying they're very, very.
That's interesting. It's just different. I had Valley of the Sun. A couple of the guys told me the story. They were selling someone an album in Germany, and they asked him if he wanted to autograph the album, and the guy was like, "No." It's like that would never happen in the United States. It would be like, "Oh, are you serious?" And so I do think there's there's obviously some cultural differences and stuff. So that's interesting as well.
But you know what? I can compare being on the road. I can compare playing some of these places. Like, see, Germany, they're lucky, right? Every cool band is touring there because of the system that's in place. Germany, France, Netherlands, Belgium, all these places, right? So I guess they get a little bit inundated with all these bands coming through. So they kind of, which is cool about when you're playing in front of these crowds, they may not move for a song. You really have to win them over, and that's kind of really cool. Where I think in America, except for places like New York and LA, that they have a very European, like we play LA, and they're going to sit back and like maybe by the 4th song they go, "Okay, you're cool. I'm going to move my head." That's generalizing, of course, not always.
Well, I get that.
But I think they appreciate that they play. And like from the first song in the States, people are going nuts. And I do think that's very true. We are much more vocal in that. I think we're more enthusiastic, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I do think that it's probably different in different shows, different regions. I'd hate to paint anything with a broad brush, but
sure.
The feedback I get from the European bands and even for regular bands that play Planet Desert Rock is the amount of merch they sell. And that really goes out to these amazing, I would say we built this family, as Ryan and I have said.
I think we have.
People that really like going to our 2 festivals. It's hard to do the New York one too, because it's a week away from his thing, whatever. And these folks are folks that go and support the bands as well as the festival. And so they're buying records, CDs, shirts, posters, koozie, whatever. And that's a start. But bottom line is, it's majority Gen X, Gen Y.
Yeah.
Because anyone younger than Gen Y doesn't even know what rock and roll music is. And remember,
Yep.
I talk to 8 people a week minimum just in Uber drives. And no one knows it. I'm telling you. I mean, there's like a 6-year-old white guy or something like that. You know, he's listening to classical music. I'm like, you ever heard of this thing called rock and roll? Well, of course, they don't make it like they used to or some shit. And I'm like, well, let me show you something that kind of will give you that vibe of what you kind of remember. Of course, I can ask them, like, what do you listen to? And they're like, Moody Blues. I'm like, oh, fuck. I got to do something different. But, you know, I mean, I just feed them according to that because no one,
John,
they're
I'm
all
going to provide
ignorant.
you some hope right here. In the last 2 weeks, I've talked to Caleb Reiser, who is 27 years old and is in a band called Black Moon Cult.
He's in a band.
They are a great band. They play tribute to classic rock and roll. Will still bring in heavy underground tunes. And there's another band I talked to, Temple of the Fuzz Witch, and this kid's like 20. He's like the same age. And they're definitely a heavier band. They played at Ripplefest last year. Yeah. And yeah, I know the majority of people are definitely what you're talking about our age, but man,
the crowd,
there is some hope out there. And
well, I mean,
I think if we get a few more bands with those young, you know, kids in those, maybe we'll bring out some younger people.
That is the key, Sean. And we've seen it with Slow Mo's not really young, quite frankly, but they look younger than most of these bands.
They're younger than us.
They've had, well, who isn't at this point? For me, at least. Yeah. They've done a great job of elevation, but I'm inspired by something I saw. Okay. And the key to anything about this scene is it has to be younger people doing the music and having a good enough looks and good enough songs that captures people's attention at their age. Because I saw a band in Tulsa, Oklahoma called Dexter and the Moonrocks. Now, they're not stoner or anything like that at all, but they're rock and roll. Yeah, and they come off a 90s influence base. That means there's grunge in there, but then there's like almost like Goo Goo Dolls or Gin Blossoms kind of textures in there, Smashing Pumpkins. And they filled up Cane's, which is a 101-year-old venue in Tulsa. It's been around forever. And they got walls worth of posters of people from Huey Lewis, the B.B. King, to every country star ever, Roy Clark, you know, to Sleep. And that venue is like these 700, 800, 1,000 people venue. And that place was packed. And everywhere I looked around, I was the oldest person.
I love that story. So
everyone was lower than 30. And they got big on TikTok. And I think it just gets going there's no way that 20-somethings and teenagers want anything to do mostly with people my age, your age.
Of course. Did you want to
music doesn't matter as much.
Our age when you were that age? I know I didn't.
I mean, I liked Led Zeppelin, and so I did like Bad Company and Led Zeppelin. I liked Jimmy Page, so
we are.
I mean, but I'm more respectful of my elders than maybe.
That's a good point. Yeah, I did too, so I can't argue with that.
I also believe there is a lot of hope. I mean, I'm obviously the consummate optimist anyway, but as a school teacher, I see kids in the hallway every day with Soundgarden shirts. Okay. I used to see them when they're in Nirvana shirts all the time, right? But they bought that at freaking Walmart or Target. They don't know who they are.
Right.
They're not picking up a Soundgarden shirt at Walmart.
Yeah, but they're wearing the Soundgarden shirt. They're wearing like the actual OG, a lot of grunge. I've seen a lot of metal shirts. And a lot of it's because we're now of the age where our kids are old enough to be in high school or older, or maybe a little younger, whatever. So they're listening to what their parents are listening to. And like I've noticed even with Hiders at Queen shows, I get stoked when we play an all-age venue because there's kids there. That's what I love about, I love about the Far Out Lounge at Ripplefest is I want people to bring their kids and whatnot too, right? Unfortunately, Sagebrush, it's a bar. It's 21 up. Can't do it. Yeah. But like at that place you can, and they can bring their kids and kind of let them experience what a festival is supposed to, in my opinion, supposed to be like before they just go to these big mega Uber fests where there's you're 100 rows back and there's another band playing on that stage at the same time, and and shirts are costing $60. Funnel cakes are $20.
Chaos, but that's the popular chaos that people are programmed and want to hear. because that music is what's in their ear and given to them the most. Regardless, some people are like, radio's dead. I don't care what.
Yeah,
you
this
say.
is still
But
a
literally on
minority of people.
Spotify, YouTube, whatever, everything algorithmic wise is pushed by something involving money. And so, yeah, these bands are just played so much that even the younger crowd will gravitate to that because that's what they hear. Listen, my shows, there's almost no one under 30 ever at my show, period, in a sentence. So I speak from the world I know. I don't pretend, and I've been to shows. I'll be going to one tonight, Spirit Mother, which is a youngish band.
Yeah, there you go.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful violinist. I mean, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And they're on tour with the band called Iris, IRESS. They're kind of like psychedelic and doomgaze. Never heard of them before, but I was listening to them before the show, and I'm like, cool. Female vocalist,
cool,
accessible at the same time. So I'll be curious if there'll be younger people there or not. I mean, I'm telling you, it's like almost a never that I see people under 30. We had a little bit of a Hesher crowd here for a while that did Doom. It came as a big group, and they're probably drinking out in the parking lot. It's smoking for sure. And I never see them anymore because a number of them had kids. You know what I mean? Even in their 20s, they're out, done.
Well,
and so you don't even see this pack of 20 roll up and buy tickets.
So
which is
so
everything is so quick.
Don't get these younger guys and ladies out to shows. We're still going to have a continuation of what you guys are doing. But tell me, have you guys thought of maybe doing some things, I don't know, maybe in a different way? Like, I think there's a lot of concern about Desert Fest going down. Is there have you guys ever thought about collaborating and maybe doing kind of a Ripplefest, Planet Desert Rock kind of tour and taking that kind of thing to a couple different cities? And maybe if you did 4 or 5 cities in a row, you could, entice European bands to spend that money and come over. Is that even, am I just being crazy?
Well, I will say, if you thought about the logistics involved in that, it's insane. But because I did originally have an idea that I was going to go Ripplefest, I was going to put it in several spots. This is when I was still really naive to everything, because I was like, man, that would be so cool. Now I give bands to play, and I can go, all right, you want this much money? Well, no, how about I give you multiple shows and I can get maybe a better price? So all of that makes sense, except for when you start factoring in production costs of multiple venues. And now I'm probably going to be in charge of logistics of getting different, things in different cities. It becomes a nightmare.
Work
because we're one person.
Yeah,
these are the
we don't have
things
staff
that people don't understand, guys. I'm glad you're saying these things out loud, because I think a lot of us, I said before, maybe I said right at the beginning or right before we jumped on, a lot of people think this stuff just happens by magic or through force of will or just because they want it so bad. But I think you guys are starting to, what you've really done here is giving us some information to deal with, some reality to deal with. I think.
Let me read some stuff. That. I appreciate it, Sean, and that's what we're here for. And we're not here to just bitch and moan, because we'll line this stuff as a positive soon, because that's what me and Ryan do. Here I wrote down, here's festival costs, and Rhino can add some. Band costs. We've already talked about band costs, that whether agents or not, and you just work a deal with the band. Bands lose money many times even coming to these things. Now, we always hope that with the merch it makes up for it. But these bands aren't, professional bands per se. They're bands that work and have jobs. So this is an awesome experience. And so we just hope that they don't lose money. And if they can make money, it'll be more likely because our fans are so awesome and they buy merch and stuff, and they get new fans. And then they catch them when they go on a tour, things like that. All right. So that's one thing. Second is venue renting a venue. I'm very fortunate right now that did not have to do that, because our scene is so bad that our venues are happy that I'm willing to do a big show that guarantees them drinking from 6 to 1, right? Yeah. Hell, they'd be paying me. but Ryan, he has to at least spend some money on that production at Psycho Vegas, which, was 3 different venues by the time it was finished. that must have been the bane of their existence, was that aspect of the whole thing, is just coordinating that.
That was the
Then
real
you
wake
got-
up call.
Yeah, I mean, just whoop. Then you got production costs, which is backline, which is lighting, the sound engineers, like in Ryan's
Wait,
case.
this isn't all free? Yeah, see, that's
I mean,
people
you have
don't
great
think about
volunteers.
this.
It's unbelievable.
People aren't thinking about this. Go
There's
on,
always
I'm
someone
sorry.
willing to volunteer, but they're not as good as the ones that you could pay. And so that's the tricky part, because you want it to be a great experience for everyone. And so, like, Ryan's got 2 stages. So you have 2 different sound guys, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
And-
so that's 2.
And if it's a full day, I'm usually going to have 3 so they can have a roving guy.
Right.
And it is a little warm, Ryan. They probably need a break.
It's a long day. Yeah.
And like Counts Vamped, where I do, shows that they have 2 sound guys. They go front and back. And that costs money for them up front, which puts more pressure on them, in their bottom line of running a venue. So you got the sound engineers, you got the light person. Lights. Ryan does the liquid lights guy. I mean, I know he's not free. So
Man,
that
was so badass, especially during Beelzebong. It was like, man, I didn't need drugs for that. That was cool.
And that's what makes the experience, right? So
yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
It's part of an immersive experience.
It's a cost that I look at going, man, I'm to make ends meet. Do I need to cut this? And I'm just like, no, I can't. It's just certain things you can't cut. It becomes tough.
I'm gonna add. I mean, I was really happy this past year with the visuals. It was amazing the way they took a little bit of my coaching on the lighting. I'm like, the fall pattern is darker, not brighter. That's what this scene is. And you kind of. But I'll probably add in. There's a local kid doing some liquid lights kind of stuff, and I'm gonna add that into some bands, potentially, particularly psychedelic one. Okay, let's get back to cost. Security, got to pay for security.
You gotta have security. You literally people. It's not even a choice that you guys have. You're probably
sometimes the venues will provide it
to have security.
Absolutely.
Sometimes the venues provide it.
Teams that you guys had at your shows were fantastic, and they did a great job.
Yeah. You got to have someone to pay. You got to pay people to work the door. Someone's got to take the tickets, make sure not give everything for fucking free, draw the line on people, whatever.
Someone you trust.
Someone you can trust, that is going to pocket some of your money. Then you got to have a merch person. So merch, meaning that you got to pay someone to go sell the shit for you. First off, Ryan, you have your wife doing that, right?
I'm very lucky in that fact. Yeah.
Sorry, I just pushed a button there. Sorry, guys.
I had to pay, for multiple nights. Now she was so awesome. People loved her. She was cute, good looking. So that does well. And she's nice and digs music. So I got lucky. I'll pay her whatever just to have her because I sold a lot of merch. Then you have to pay for the merch. So that's thousands of dollars.
Wait, merch isn't free either?
Yeah, the pay for that. You got to.
What the hell?
I mean, the shirts are thousands.
Yeah, exactly.
I still have shirts left, which that's part of this whole gamble.
Same.
If you sell them at a certain number.
Do you want to trade shirts?
Shirt.
Just kidding. Do you want to trade a shirt?
Trade. I got enough shirts. I'll give you one. Let me know. You let me know your size after the show. Maybe
we'll work it out.
Damn it, you Ryan. But it costs money for those. It costs money to print the posters.
Right.
And you got to have artists to do those. Now, I'm
paying for the artist.
Big love
to do the art.
Big love.
Thank you for paying for artists and not having some bullshit AI, John. Like you have a guy from Fuzz.
Let's not talk about AI.
Yeah, we're not going to. But thank you. And then I appreciate you doing the freaking that guy from Fuzz Evil. Joe, is that his name?
Joey Riddell. Yeah. So I'm so blessed that there's 2 guys that have enough belief in what the bigger picture of what we're trying to do. And they're like, John, I'm doing this for you. You know what I mean? So I don't pay them. Joey Riddell from Fuzz Evil, who just put out a new album. It's damn good, by the way.
Damn good.
And Joey's done artwork with Ripple Music, with a bunch of stuff with the Turnstone series and things like that. And he's done a lot of other stuff. So
sorry, I took you off on a tangent.
Yeah. With that, I want to say thanks to him and then Alex Sonolith, who might or might not be listening. He's been there from I think since year 2, helping out with some of this stuff along the way. Helps
Wait,
with some of the like
John,
basement
I
art.
found this button I can push. And speaking of Sonolith, Sage from Sonolith has a question for you guys. Can you see this? Will John Gist and Ryan Garney provide chopper service for the next?
It should be
Planet
Choppa.
Yeah, get to the chopper.
Yeah.
Chopper, come on,
Sage.
Sage. You made me say it
You
wrong,
messed it
too.
up to begin with.
Missed the golden opportunity. Missed the
Dude.
golden opportunity.
Right now, he's either laughing, stoned, or working, or
He could be
combination.
laughing stoned.
Yeah, it could be a combination, or selling
All right,
Armani
sorry to
suits, whatever.
interrupt that, but you mentioned
All right.
Sonolith, so I had to jump
All
in
right,
there.
so hold on,
you're
I'm not
still
done.
doing cost, man.
Yeah, and then there's instrument rental, which for me I do for the bands that are coming up from Europe. Let's say help facilitate some things.
Yes.
So and then the backline costs we talked about earlier. I mean, I paid for backline at a usual place, and I paid for guitar rentals, and that it was not cheap. but
Backline's not cheap at all.
my guy delivered very good merch. I mean, very good good equipment, like really good. And my sound guy, Patrick, that came over from the Whiskey, and has done tours with Nebula and Orange Goblin, all these. He just dials the shit in. So I'm really lucky, but he costs money too.
Yeah, we have to. A lot of this is luck, right? Like I have a great artist who's not free or cheap, but he's the guy I want. Or the backline company. If you want it to sound good, you got to pay the price, and if you want it to look good, you got to pay for the right people. It's part of it that I didn't really know all about, and I'm learning. And so John and I are getting better at this. I think as we go, but the struggle is with the band budget. I think I kind of want to shed a little light on Desert Fest New York as well.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Like
Gotta do one more part.
Yeah,
One more cost. Marketing and advertising.
That's actually
And
very
PR,
expensive.
which so many bands dismiss and don't do. It's so
works.
bizarre. And they complain that they're not bigger. Same with venues, same with shows. If you run a fest and you're not running ads a lot in the 6 months, different markets and audiences, then how are anyone going to know about it? Other word of mouth, which
Where's
is
the best place for a band to do that, John?
Facebook and YouTube.
Okay.
They got to get a video, particularly a video. You have to create a video ad, which, if you get a video ad created, that costs money. And I had to pay for one last year as well. And, you can run something on YouTube. I'm not sold on it necessarily. It didn't really show me actually any verifiable sales because of it.
Yeah.
But I like that at least it brought in some people that aren't on Facebook. I'm definitely a Facebook advertiser. I've been doing it for 8-9 years now, for different companies, different things. And it has definitely been, return business has been the biggest one, as far as bringing people in. And some social media. Like you got to do things on social media. It can't be anything about politics either.
Right.
So you got to do social media stuff that helps bands. It talks about bands, talks about us along the way, because we're not just here to make money. We're part of the scene. Ryan went to Planet Desert Rock this past year. I've gone every year to Ripplefest. I've helped Ryan with ads to pay my way, we'll say. So I like to earn my keep. I did the same thing with Mario with Heavy Psych Fest over in Joshua Tree. Me and Ryan worked.
Well, we went there and worked.
I worked
ads
for a month
That's
leading
super
up
cool.
to.
That's
Ryan,
so cool.
and I went
and Ryan and his brother worked the actual
did some
fest.
muscle. Yeah.
Fucking freezing cold at night. I love the desert, but man, those nights suck so bad.
That's cold, yeah.
I just have murders.
It's for the love, though. It's what it's about. It's for
But
the love of
anyways,
it.
the money for those ads and PR person is not cheap at all. And they're the ones who are going to send emails out, send it to different correspondents and things that may not even give to what.
Man, I think
my two newspapers or newspaper and magazine, thank God they give me love, and that's been a relationship I've built over time. But I'm never gonna. I mean, I'm not sure if I could ever get on one of these TV programs in the morning. I'd wake up early for that. I'd even catch a little buzz before. I guarantee you that. A little bit, just a little.
Just a little.
But anyways, I'm
buzz is good for
sorry.
you.
I'm sorry. Let's go to
I'm
you.
in the providing people a little buzz business. So
Yes, you are.
I think,
God's
everything
work.
in moderation, except rock and roll. You
Ryan
guys,
was saying something. I interrupted Ryan.
I was just gonna say,
yeah,
like, I know that Desert Fest. I'm sorry, yeah, Desert Fest New York obviously dropped this year. I've developed a good relationship with Reese and Sarika from the desert scene people, and I respect that they dropped out in the sense, like, I was kind of like, what?
yeah,
That's gonna, because I feel like it's gonna, gonna hurt. But I learned a lot in talking to them about it. First of all, they're running a festival in New York. You can only imagine the production costs in New York. Uh, in, I mean, I have high production costs because I'm in Austin, Texas, but and because of I'm using a large venue.
yeah,
It's not
yeah.
not a club. They are too. Massive costs. And I always assumed, because I've seen Desert Fest, Berlin, New York,
Yeah.
London, they
Belgium.
were this large company.
Awesome.
This large company. They're not. I did not realize that. They are very much like us, and those have been kind of like subsidized. Like, someone else runs Desert Fest Berlin, someone else runs Desert Fest Oslo, Desert Fest Antwerp.
I
I
did
didn't
not
know
know
that.
that. I didn't know that
Yeah,
either.
So
and
they
so
do like what Ripplefest has to some degree. Yeah.
yeah, they use they like kind of give the rights to their name, so to speak, and other people are running it, taking the risk, and they have not turned a profit in New York. You think about what the great crowds they've not turned a profit, and that's kind of how it is in the States. We don't turn a lot of profit, for these festivals,
There's not
and
enough people going.
yeah,
That's the bottom line. I mean, we have
but
a lot of cool people to go,
oh yeah,
but
what I respect about them pulling out is that, and Reese and I kind of had this talk. He's like, because we've been working together the year before, we worked together because we were a week apart to give bands a reason to have two festivals to tour. And
Yeah,
that
yeah.
there's a huge and part of that was I had gotten Dozer and I had gotten Truck Fighters and I had gotten Domcraft and some of these European bands, and then Reese was like, whoa, 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 can we work together? I'm like, absolutely. It's gonna only We're not in competition, man. This is one big family. It's only gonna help
Right.
us. And so we started doing that. And they felt their lineup was not going to be up to par this year for to their standard. And if you feel that way, I understand them pulling out.
I agree.
We're having a lot of the European bands. We're having a hard time coming over here for a lot of different reasons. It's not what people think of. Yes, visa costs is a big deal. That went up though that went up in 24. Uh, like
it's gone
even
up
the
for years and years. The
Yeah,
Obama
steadily,
era, it was going up. I mean,
steadily. And then
yeah.
2024, from anywhere between February and July, it went up like 200%. And which was insane. Like, I felt really bad for like some of my European bands who had agreed to do certain things under what the cost was when they looked, and then it went up. But they still came, and I appreciate that.
Thanks,
But
guys.
the obviously those costs, but it's also the travel costs are more expensive right now to fly over here, and gas is high, rental costs. There's a lot of factors,
Yeah.
and without Desert Fest New York, plain and simple, I had a harder time getting the European band to come over because there was not another festival to tour around, and so it's one of those situations where we but you that's this is to your point. You're asking if we had talked about working together, and this is what we do all the time because
I love it.
we're all in this together, and we believe that we need each other. I need John to succeed for me to succeed. And with the
Yeah.
coolest thing about when I went to Desert Fest, I played it a few years back, but when I went this past year, I saw everybody I saw at Ripplefest, and that was the
Yeah, it was so
coolest thing.
cool.
And that's exactly what I always envisioned it would be. And it's so cool to see that actually happening now, because I realized this is a big family, and I'm selling it that way. I truly believe Ripplefest is the largest family reunion of the year. That's what I want it to be every
Let me
year.
tell you guys, I'm a fan, and so from my perspective, you're absolutely right, Ryan. This is like, I know that 2 times a year that I can go to the most local show, because those shows feel more local than any show I feel and I go to in Denver. I'm closer to more people. I have friends that I talk to on a
Party,
lot of them
man.
on a
Yeah,
daily
exactly.
basis. I mean,
Yeah.
like, I have real relationships with these people that I've met through your festivals. And I know that I'm not the only person that is absolutely grateful for that. You guys have provided that small family atmosphere in a
Yeah,
way that, Psycho Vegas couldn't do. Or like I go to these reggae shows sometimes and they talk about, oh, the stick figure family. There's no family, it's 15,000 individuals there. But that's never the case at one of your
yeah.
festivals,
So
I never feel alone.
you're not going to get that at the Mega Fest. And
Right.
I think that we kind of have a fine line too. Like we want to be successful and sell enough tickets to cover our costs, but there's also a fine line of if it gets too big, it loses its allure. And so
Yeah.
there's a certain band that we go after to keep it at that. Well, because of what we can afford, A, but B, also because let's say I start turning, let's say, in perfect world, I start turning profit on this. There's still like a level you don't want to get too high, and then because Live Nation will come buy you out or something else, or crush you or whatever, or who
Oh, yeah,
knows.
production cost just goes up. It basically
Yeah,
is what
well,
it
it's
comes
true.
down to.
Yeah.
That's true. The more people you have, the more sometimes double, triple the cost of what you
Well,
have
and
to put into it.
honestly, like I can't afford to pay $400 or $500 for a ticket and fly to Texas and get a hotel room and rent a car and eat in your amazing restaurants. By the way, your food is so good there. Damn, what the hell's going on down there? But
Yeah, we got
yeah,
to.
man, it's like, and John, like Vegas is a little more affordable coming from Denver, but still, it's the same kind of,
Yeah,
if I had like you guys, your shows, I don't even like the ticket price isn't really even part of my consideration. It's like it's hotel and
exactly.
flight and stuff, and you guys have made that really possible for a lot of people to go and see just a group of amazing bands that, we couldn't probably do if it was a Psycho Vegas, situation. Also, I don't want to go to a big old festival and all the bands that I love are playing on some tiny stage, at 11 a.m. either. So, and you guys have
Or
really, you
or
know,
I don't. My biggest pet peeve is
There
making
we go.
someone make a decision of
Yeah.
what.
yeah, thanks for
So
not
That's
doing
something
that.
Ryan and I both hated about
yeah,
Psycho Vegas, and we both decided to not do that.
no overlap.
Period in a sentence. I mean, if I was to create a bigger festival at some point in time, I don't even know if I mean, maybe there'd be two stages, the back and forth thing, and that would be a completely different design. I like Planet Desert Rock for what it is, which is an intimate outing, in really good sound. Like I am blessed to have great sound systems I work with and sound people. I challenge put it up against anything,
Once again,
but
as a
it is
fan, let me
club scene.
let me give you my perspective on the difference between your two shows as a fan. John, your show is smaller and it's indoors and there's space between the bands, so I can go outside and smoke a joint with Andy. It's perfect. You know,
It's legal.
Ryan, your show like is in this big outdoor area. And so like when I get tired of standing up front, I can go sit in like the picnic table area and smoke a joint with Hastronaut while another band plays and I can still enjoy the music. And I like both of these situations because you both provide something that's critical to fans at these festivals and that you provide us an opportunity to be social with each other
Yeah.
and you do it in different ways, but you both do it very effectively. And to me, the bands are great and you guys are awesome. But man, I'm coming back for the camaraderie. I'm coming back for that family feeling. Um, man, I just can't tell you how much I appreciate what you guys do for the scene. It's fucking huge.
Thanks, man. And I that's the camaraderie is what we're selling the experience. I think John and we're lucky. I I think we're at a point where I think people trust that we're going to give a good product.
Yeah.
That they trust that even the bands they never heard of are going to be good because we're
Yeah.
both big on that. I'm huge on giving bands that no one. These every band Ripplefest should be bigger than they are.
Yes.
My goal is, which has happened to some of them, that they're too big to play Ripplefest again. I can't afford them now. That's exactly what needs to happen, and so I'm hoping that continues. But I think that we're selling the experience because everyone knows the lineup is going to be good.
I'm honored that when people give me summarize why to keep doing this. That's one of the things that they drive with me is the curation aspect, and of course all the other things. I mean, when I rebooted Planet Desert Rock, Ryan was part of it, and it was just 2 nights, and I decided I'll put 2 nights together. John Garcia one night with steak coming over from England. So Reese from Desert Fest was there playing. And then now, in Formula 400 and so on. And then the next night was like Nebula and Salesman and Sonolith and of course High Desert Queen. And that was it. But people were coming up to me and like, you got to do this again. This is so cool. This gives us another break. We love the bands. And that year I was basically break even, which
is a huge victory.
Maybe like a smidge. I was like,
huge victory.
I could do that again, maybe.
Break even is like the theme of every band on this scene. Of every
but that's not my theme.
It's like, man, let's just not lose money.
That's not my theme, though. I'm not here.
Yours, John, you're making up for stuff.
I'm good at making money. I'm good at making money for companies for years. I got to figure out, I got to pay off the debt that I have on my initial investment.
That's what I'm talking about. It's a little
that's still getting even.
Bitch.
Right,
but
man.
I appreciate, it's the people. The only reason why this is still happening
100%.
is because of some in our scene. Whether it's the Debbie Lees or the Vans, or we go on and on with these people that hey, you, Sean, you fell in love when you came, and it was just like, oh my God, you've been so grateful, and you talk, you talk about Planet Desert Rock, which were maybe the smallest of the four, and it's just all these great people, and they just encourage people along the way. I even saw it in the comments. Debbie's like, you got to go to these things. Because some people really want to be stuck in regional stuff and always support regional bands or local bands. That's a disaster way of thinking. That's click-like thinking instead of actually hearing the best music. That's always going to be key. The best music, no matter where they're from, in rock and roll needs to be heard. That's what Planet Desert Rock's about. That's why we have European bands coming in, is because I believe heavy rock is a world thing.
It's what Ripplefest is about too, right, Ryan?
Absolutely, 100%. That's what we're about. That's what all of us. John and I specifically, I know we're in it for the same reasons, and that we believe in the scene. And when I lost my ass, and John too, we lost our ass. I'm like, what am I doing? But what made
COVID happened next year, so I was like, well, I don't have to think about it anymore.
But I was like, well, do I want to do this again? And it was like, I thought about the people that who I've made friendships, and then I see them all over at shows now, and there's people that I know that look forward to the festival because they're going to see their family again, and that's what makes it all super important to me. I'm huge on that.
And we just hope that it just word gets out, and more people bring in new people through advertising, promotions, and PR, that people find out, and then they're like, I'm coming every year. And I get people to tell me that.
I know.
First year here, I never heard about it, but I saw a couple bands. I'm like, I got to go see that band. And I'm here just because of that. And now I love it. I have people say that about Sergeant Thunder.
Story. I've never been to a festival, and I'm sitting in my living room, and I'm following this weird, John Giss guy. He's talking about Planet Desert Rock Weekend. You were weird at the time, John.
I'm always weird.
No, you're not weird at all. Actually, you're not. But I'm following your site, and like he keeps announcing bands, and like the first one that struck me was like, man, Black Elephant. I thought I was the only person in the world that had ever fucking heard of Black Elephant. I was like, he's gonna have Black Elephant in Vegas. It's like. And then like a couple weeks later, it was Space Slug. And then it was like, I looked at Andrea and I was like, do you want to go to this? And she's like, yeah, sure. Buy tickets right now. And so I did. And then I didn't have any idea what to expect, except I was going to see a bunch of good bands I was probably never going to see anywhere else. But then I got there, and I've told the story before. Debbie Lee met Andrea and I in the parking lot. We knew each other from the internet, and she invited us to sit with her and Scott at their table. And then later that night, Flames of Durga came and sat at our table. And then I realized, then I was like, the bands like are talking to people. And like, and like everybody here like seems to know each other. And I know that can't be like, not everybody can know each other. And then it kind of clicked in. It was like, oh, this is a really fucking cool scene. And then, Ripplefest was like, Debbie was like, well, you have to go to that if you like Planet Desert Rock. And I was like, well, you guys will be there. I'll know somebody. I know Marty. He'll be there. I know I met him. And then like Ripplefest was it was the same thing over again. It was like, and now like those are like my main groups of people I like talk to. I mean,
Right.
more
They're
than
the
people I know in
family.
real life, more than,
They're the family you get to
yeah.
choose.
Yeah,
Let
but
that sink in.
it's if you haven't been to one of these guys, if you haven't, and I know there's some other festivals we talked about. I'm sure Maryland Dune Fest that creates the same kind of Desert Fest New York did, and I know there's something big happening in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Jason's putting together something that seems to have this special feeling as well. You have to go to one of these festivals and really check this out. It's not like just going to a local show. There's a really good group of human beings going to this show. And there's a lot of love in the room. And there's just a lot of appreciation for the best music that's being made right now. So, and you guys are awesome for providing us that opportunity. And I really appreciate you guys being candid and honest about what's going on behind the scenes at festivals. So people maybe don't take things so personally when a Desert Fest gets canceled because Reese has got to be just crushed. And
He completely is. Completely is. Yeah.
yeah. And
I mean, it's a
also I
feeling.
want you guys to know out there that Reese didn't feel like he could bring you the quality of show that he wanted to bring you. And I think
I do. I do. And uh, it's one of those deals where, like, I think he understands too that if going away a year could potentially hurt his brand a lot. And if you were to go away a second year, it could be really bad. And I think he has every intention of coming back with
I
a
hope so.
vengeance. So, which is good.
I hope so. Because I love Reese and Des Fest is an unbelievable name worldwide, and they've really continued to champion this style. So it's just the Northeasterners got to get a little grip on cost, which they should already know that because they live up there. And so the cost of that venue and all the things we listed cost money up there. And you got to then go, well, do I have the band lineup that's going to bring it in? That's going to bring in the volume of dollars to outbalance all that exorbitant heavy cost. That's the tricky part, I think.
That's the scary part. Once
I mean, we're gambling. I mean, it's a long run gamble, like 12 months of gambling. Then you're off to the next creation. But it's a long one you got to do. But it's all about that budget. Jason, I see you had a question.
That's what I was just telling him. It's all about the budget.
Yeah, it's just gonna be cost versus revenue. So I think you got a different setup out there, Jason. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
this is San Diego.
You got
one, right?
set up on what's that?
This is the San Diego the festival, right?
Oh, I think this might be the Jason up in Michigan.
Oh, okay. I can't. The picture's so small, I can't see.
Yeah, I don't have my reader glasses on, but it depends on how you're paying the bands. I think I remember one of them. If this is the Jason from Michigan, I think you're doing something with the door or whatever as part of a payment for the bands, which is a whole different model than this.
I was abducted abducted by aliens. I was pretty thoroughly probed.
I thought he was tired of listening to us.
And they sent me back. So, no, I don't know. My computer just shut down. Thanks for hanging in there, guys. That's the second time I've just turned the show over to other people. I hope you guys are the best.
We're just still talking. Of course. No, I was just saying, because Jason was talking about with the, Jason asked a question.
Yeah. So you said, it's from Grand Rapids.
Which, again, it depends on how you're going to pay the bands. That's going to be the key. But lineup equals potential revenue, and then there's the cost for that lineup and all the other things to make that successful.
However many tickets you think this band is worth, budget for less than that, because it's just
don't even think that way half the time.
You can't start doing that. That's the big mistake I made. I go, if I get this band for this much, that means I have to sell this many tickets. It doesn't work that way at all. It doesn't work that way at all, because a one-off show at a festival are two different animals, and the way people buy tickets is different. And so you have to just make sure that your production costs are, what your band budget is. If you think you can sell X amount of tickets, that's what your entire budget should be, maybe a little less. Or
is that your biggest piece of advice you'd have for someone who is wanting to start up a festival?
Well, I think it just depends on what they're in it for. Like we're in it for the love of it, but we can't keep losing our ass, or we can't do it. We're not made of money. So like there's some people who get in it it's a passion project. I think a lot of people who have money in their pocket get into this because it's a passion project, and then they realize there's no money in it, and that's why they don't stick around. So it's
or they can't
like,
afford to keep losing.
that's what I'm saying. Like, they have money in their pocket and they keep it all with so much fun, but I can't keep losing every year, so I'm not gonna do this anymore. It was fun, it was a fling, and then they're done with it. But if you're truly invested and you believe in the scene, to me, I think, like, we already talked about this, but John and I are invested in the people that we do this festival for, and that's the part that kind of keeps the motor running. Which is why we've gotten better at balancing budgets, because we have to, so that we can keep this going.
Yeah, that's the love. It's got you. I mean, like, it's like a turnip, and there's not a lot of blood in it, right? So there's not a lot of money in the scene, I think that some people just I think that and I
There
think
could be more.
I'm hoping there will be more, and
I really think so. It's just up to people. It's up to people to go for it, get outside their bubble, leave their little area. I think that, doing the little regional ones, if you stick to just regional bands, I'm not sure where the huge upside necessarily comes, unless that crowd is always going to be coming and it just gets bigger, then that's cool, but it's more of a regional thing. And maybe you grab a couple bands from other places, a lot of it's going to be on curation. And again, my brother from another mother, Ryan over here, as strong curation. And Reese mostly does. I mean, Reese gets heavy, with some stuff that I'm not going that. I mean, I was offered recently a pretty heavy band that brings people. I'm like, I don't want to do it.
And that's also
keep this thing, this certain brand.
I mean, it's what Psycho did. Psycho kind of went that route, I feel like.
They got rapper. I mean, they literally. I mean, I don't know how much it costs. Let's just say $100,000 for the guys from Wu-Tang, or a couple of them. Like, literally, they have to think, like, what is the financial return on that? Like, how many one-day ticket extra are going to be sold because of them, right? Or people just bought the festival because they bought a metal and rock festival because the Wu-Tang rappers are coming.
I mean, I even like Wu-Tang, but no.
You know what I mean? So, I'm just saying dollars cent. Like, if it's their artistic flexing and whatever else, then you roll with the punches. You know what I mean? But Psycho got too big, and the venue thing was just a hassle for them. And we'll see if they ever come back.
I know you both have like lives and stuff. John, you got to go to a show. Ryan,
I like to think I do.
I don't know how you guys get as much stuff done as you do. I am absolutely impressed by the amount of work that people do in the scene. It's like, because everybody has jobs too, I mean, people's part-time stuff is insane, and full-time stuff is even crazier. I really appreciate you guys taking time out of your busy days, to let fans know what's up. I appreciate the information. I'm just a fan too, I don't know a lot of this shit. I mean, basically what I know is what you guys have shared with me, and I appreciate that.
We appreciate you, Sean.
Man,
we appreciate you.
Big time. And you're a major asset to the scene. It's cool to watch your web grow, also, and you've been nice and done a lot of positive about Planet Desert Rock, which Planet Desert Rock literally is at its fastest pace of sales ever. And so I'm just honored that enough people are trusting this weekend, that I've kind of created with my band of merry men and women.
Are treasured people, and I'm not just trying to butter you up, but you're treasured people in the scene that are providing something that we all love. And even if we can't make it to your shows, just seeing the lineups cause us to go out and look up the bands and check them out. So I really appreciate you guys very much. It's an honor for me to get to talk to you guys. I absolutely thrilled to do the show. And John, I'm glad you set it all up. This is all John. He set it up, and I'm happy to host it. And it's really important information that people in our scene have. And I think, it's an open scene, and it's transparent. And I think we just like people be, appreciative that you let them know what's up. So thank you.
Yeah, we thank you for letting us be up here and talk about it. And John, he's right. John texted me yesterday, would you want to talk about this? And I was like, yeah, man, I love talking about this.
Well, let's do it.
So,
if you guys are doing, we could do it regularly.
I do too, and I think it's
every few months or so.
Sure.
You never know. We could do it again sometime, for sure.
Absolutely.
I mean, the bottom line is we're excited about the growth of both festivals. It's outstanding to see. And I say growth, meaning that there's more people buying tickets and more people showing up. That has to happen, or else we end up cutting production down and, we're already not booking certain level of bands anymore.
Well,
you know what I mean?
The bands you're booking like those other bands, they do their own tours, and we can go out and see them anytime. They come through our cities, and we'll go see them. But you know what? Like, I don't get a chance to see Temptress too often, or Wolfhound, or like, it was cool. Even though I'm from Denver, it was cool to see Abrams and Astronaut in Texas. And so appreciate that, guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's an experience. You only live once, people. It could all be over tomorrow, and you got a bunch of money in the bank, and you're like, on your way up, oh, geez, my 401k is still there. Thank God. I mean, maybe you're married and got kids.
That's the cool thing.
You still love them.
About this crowd.
So you're like, they get it.
Going to EDM shows, man. We don't even have to worry about where they are. Just kidding about that.
Oh boy,
where they are is in outer space with the drugs they're giving
on our scene. Everybody, just in case you wanted to know, there's like a complete lack of weed.
I thought EDM.
Other things we don't even know what those things are, and sometimes we might have a beer.
Only organic, man.
Dude, of course, if I can't grow it on my farm, dude, of course, you shouldn't be putting it in your body. All right, I don't talk like that. Sorry, I saw the Cheech and Chong movie last night. Probably, I didn't make it through the Cheech and Chong movie.
Yeah,
it's a documentary. Who wants to watch a bunch of people just talking? Oh wait. What? Well, hopefully everybody wants to see that, man. I appreciate you guys. You're the best, man. Hey, I'm going to let you guys go. This is Sean from the Heavy Underground Farm Report. I have Ryan and John, Ryan Garney and John Giz from Ripplefest, Texas, and Planet Desert Rock Weekend. You guys are making the scene go. I appreciate you guys. Oh, yeah!